We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Thursday. That means it's Old Soul Day, and Old Soul joins us. Old Soul is on the road in parts unknown. Old
hmm
Soul, you're not at your home in Las Vegas. You're on the
Nope.
road. What the hell's going on?
One of the girls that was supposed to come to me, she wasn't able to make it because during one of her layovers, she started having complications from, she has a pre-existing health condition. And so they were letting her know that there was like no way that she could carry her baby to term.
Mhm.
And she was trying to get to Vegas so that she can get the help that she needed. And she started having complications. So I just couldn't leave her in a strange state by herself at 18. So I came out here to just kind of be supportive and help her out.
I just want people to understand what Old Soul does is when there are women, young women, or kids that are in need of reproductive health care and it's not allowed in the states they're from, Old Soul allows them to come stay with her in Las Vegas because in Nevada, they do have reproductive health care. So your job is to basically have a spot for them to sleep and take care of them and stuff.
Yeah.
How, how does it come in play that you leave your home, go to a new state? How does that fall within your job description?
It doesn't. But she's a kid. She's only 18 and she was sick, like very, very sick because of her health condition. So it ended up, I thought my family had secrets. This family got secrets. So there is a male in their family that was molesting and assaulting girls. And she thought that she was like the only one, but come to find out, her and her cousin is like best friends, and then they found out that he was doing it to both of them. So they
Wow.
had plans on as soon as we turn 18, we getting up out of here. They was like working, saving their money. They were ready to go. Then come to find out she was pregnant. So then the church and her family sit down and they say, okay, you're going to have the baby, but there's this couple in the church that's been trying to adopt the baby. So you're going to have the baby and you're going to give your baby to them. So that was the arrangement, right? So then when the couple finds out that she's taking medication for her health condition, they don't want her taking the medication anymore because it could hurt their baby. So she stops taking her medication. She gets like really, really sick. And then the doctors are like, you're putting your body through all of this. Like, there's no way. And so she started having like really bad complications. But the family, the couple, and the church, they didn't want to deal with any of that.
Right.
So she wanted to wait until she turned 18 so she can come here because they wouldn't let her come when she was 17. So because she waited so long and she wasn't having her medication and all that stuff, like her family forbid her from taking her medications. So she wasn't taking her medications. She was just trying to wait till she was 18 so she could get the help that she needed. But she started trying to travel to get to Vegas and she started just like getting sick. And then she got stuck here. And then I was just like, "Ugh, I'll come out there." Because it wasn't the cousin that she was moving with, the two of them, they had their money saved and they were gonna like, I don't know how some states is, but they had to put down like 2.5 months for a deposit because they're only 18. They don't have rental history or whatever.
Right.
So they saved all of their money to move. Like they had no furniture, no nothing. So for her coming out here, there was like no way that her cousin could come out here without dipping into their moving fund.
Right. I
So she
got
was
you.
just like, I could dip into that fund and I could be out there with you. And her cousin, like she called me a weirdo. She's like, "What kind of weirdo are you? You're gonna leave that state? You're gonna go out there and be with my cousin? Like, what's wrong with you?" Like, she thought that, I don't know, maybe I was trying to set her cousin up or something, because they track girls in certain areas. And
Right.
so I actually like told her, "Hey, here's the podcast. Look at some of the episodes that I'm on. Like, this is what I do." And so that kind of like affirmed to her, like, okay, she on this podcast, she got a couple episodes, like we can kind of trust her. So her cousin was like, fine, I'll stay here. I'll take care of everything we need to take care of as far as the apartment goes. I came out here and that's it.
Well, I think anybody who listens to the podcast, including me, would say the things you do are compassionate, admirable, but I think you're a little bit of a weirdo in the only the best way, though. Also, you're a bit of a weirdo. I mean, weirdo in the sense that you're doing things that nobody would do. I mean, people have lives like you have lives. You take moments out of your life to commit to people you don't even know. That's a little weird.
I just look at it as once. It's like if I think if she was an adult, it could have been different. But like an 18-year-old, like as sick as she was in a state by herself,
Yeah.
I felt like once she stepped on a plane, she was kind of like my responsibility. So whatever happened after that, I just needed to show up. Especially with her situation, just seems like everybody around her just really, I don't want to say they didn't care about her, but she was like an afterthought to that situation.
Well,
So
you have to wonder if they did care about her. Now, she has no parents with her. They haven't bothered to come out. They just let her go. They wanted to take her off her medication. They wanted to use her as an incubator for this other couple that desperately wants a baby, and they were willing to risk her life in order to do that. That's pretty fucked up.
yeah, they didn't let her go. Her and her cousin, like, they packed up their stuff and they left because she knew once she came to Vegas, or she was trying to get to Vegas, once she got to Vegas and she had that procedure done, she was just like, yeah, our family is like done with us at that point. They're done with her because she didn't, I don't know, kill herself trying to have a baby. And then the other cousin, like, really helping her get here. I always like try to communicate with parents when they're this young, but in this situation, there's no way. I could try to appeal to the moms sometimes, but in this situation, not even the mother. Because
Wow.
in their state, she's going to get in trouble because she left the state to have this done. And her cousin is going to get in trouble for driving her and helping her get transportation to get it done. So,
So what's the plan here then? She has the procedure once she gets better, and then the cousin and she are just gone and never going back to their home state. Is that what the plan
yeah,
is?
so yeah, they were like in kind of like a rural area. So they're going to move into like the city part. They both work at like fast food restaurants, and she has a part-time job at a store that she's transferring to. So they have jobs and everything. They're in the city. That's what they're gonna do. But it took like every penny that they have. Like they don't have a furniture in their apartment or anything like that. And the family member that's doing this to them is bothering them because he's not being held accountable, and they have girl cousins and stuff still there. So
Wow.
that's bothering them, but like there's nothing that they could do. If there was something that, we could do, there we would, but there's nothing that we could do.
Well, like you say, these are 18-year-old kids, and or this girl is 18 years old, and what's going on
She's
with
18,
hers.
yeah, she's 18 and her cousin's 19. Like they
Wow.
can't even buy alcohol yet.
It is absolutely tragic what families will do or whatever they're told to believe religiously. They're willing to sacrifice their kids, and fuck, it's absolutely despicable. You were talking about another story. Now, people people know you're compassionate and all that, but you may not all know that she gets pretty emotional about stories. Again, stories that don't have any direct connection to her. It's just stories she hears about other people struggling. And you were telling me about one before we went on here that is bothersome. And when you told me, I thought, fuck, that's
Yep.
crazy.
She's in Mississippi. She was raped when she was 12. She's 13 now, but because she's in Mississippi, there wasn't anything that she could do, and she ended up having to have her baby. And so she's going to start seventh grade with a
A
brand new
baby.
baby at 13. Mississippi. Like this just happened.
Wow, that's like a fucking third world country, you know? I mean, the thing about it is it's one thing for the trauma this 13-year-old girl has gone through for having the baby, but how is this good for a baby being raised by a 13-year-old? It's fucking crazy. It's not humane at all. And there's people let this happen because somebody tells them, some evangelist tells them that all choice is wrong. You don't have control over your body. And we're going to tell you what to do. And even if it means risking your life, you're going to fucking do it. I, I,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised young girls are fleeing their homes and their states for this ridiculous shit.
Yeah. It's it's so weird. Like before we came on, like earlier, I was talking to my uncle, And he was just like, I never thought I would ask you this question because when I told them like, okay, I think I'm gonna go and like be there for her. And my family, they just started kind of like freaking out a little bit because I guess they thought like I was going to Texas or something, which, I might be crazy enough to do that. So I don't blame them for thinking
You
it.
are.
And they just started like researching like the state that I was going to, looking at the hospital, everything. They just like, okay, she should be good there. She should be safe there. And so I was talking to my uncle earlier, and he was just like, I never thought that, because like they're older, so they lived through civil rights and all that stuff.
Right.
And he was just like, I never thought that I would have to ask, my niece, is she going to like a state where she's going to be safe? Like you should be able to just move freely in America. But,
Is this Uncle Cleo? Is that it's Uncle Cleo? Uncle
yeah,
Cleo. She just spent 3 days in a fucking prison. This surprises you?
my brother was like, we thought some people was gonna have to start taking off work and going with you. And I was just like, no. So I haven't been able to like go to a hotel, take a shower, nothing. I just wanted to make sure like she was stable first. So I stink. It's not fun and it sucks. And I'm not gonna complain because I volunteered to do it, but it's it sucks. It's not fun.
So today, I mean, we're on Zoom, so I don't have any direct connection with you, but from what it sounds like, we're dealing with funky old soul today.
Yeah. I don't smell as bad as Trump though.
Well, you haven't shit your pants yet. So
I just wanted to say about these churches too, and even the families, when they're letting these, like, I just feel like these red states and these churches are like a predator's playground. Like they just
absolutely.
know they can do whatever and just get away with it. And they keep telling these girls like forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. You can forgive somebody while they're in jail. They don't have to be out for you to forgive them. And it's like in my mind, what happened to like, I don't know, busting Mr. Upside the head now, thinking about heaven later? Like these are your children,
Right.
and they are just completely cool with it. Like, hey, just forgive them and let's move on. I don't know. Like, I guess maybe I just wasn't familiar with evangelical churches and some of these Mormon churches and stuff. I didn't think that it was like that.
Oh,
I
it's
just even
bad.
the church that I grew up in, they was like greedy. The pastor's like pimped out with his gator shoes and all that stuff. But if something was to happen inside of the church with a child, I'm pretty sure the pastor would have took his shoes off and just started beating him upside the like he would have wanted to go to jail because he wouldn't have been safe on the streets.
Right.
But
Well, you know
these churches they just don't see it like that.
what's
I don't get it.
what's
It's
ironic
driving me
about
crazy.
this is that they want you to forgive pedophiles and racists or
Yeah,
rapists. They want you to forgive them, but having an abortion is unforgivable. So they're picking and choosing what's forgivable. As long as you go
yeah,
along with what they want, they're good. And I got to tell you, I'm not a theologian, but I do believe in God and I have my beliefs. That ain't what God's about. That's
mm,
about control. That's about money. That's about bullshit. So hopefully, oh man, it's frustrating. When you have a daughter or a granddaughter and you think about these things that they might go through, um, it's frightening. I'm thankful I live in Minnesota because Minnesota is a liberal state. Uh,
yeah,
Reproductive rights are protected here. There's a lot of things protected, but I can go 2 hours south to Iowa and it's a whole fucking different story. It's
yeah,
ridiculous. It's
yeah,
crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I wanted you to mention something too because I know before we started, um, you got some directives from the hospital staff of
yep.
what you should tell them about what the hospital staffs in these situations believe in. So go ahead, let her fly.
Yeah, I'm not supposed to record in a hospital, but she stuck me in this, I don't know, supply closet with a bunch of paper and printers or whatever. And she's just like, just change your background and you should be fine. So that's what I did. And she was, but I'll let you do it on one condition. And I was just like, okay. And she says, when you get on that podcast, make sure you let everybody know that medical professionals, we are not okay with this bullshit. That's her exact words. And I told you.
Well, and
They They don't like seeing it. They are not cool with this at all. And it's very difficult for them when they see children and girls. Because when she came here, she was like in pretty rough condition. Um, but it's they don't like it doesn't make sense. It's not logical. Medical is like unethical. They take an oath. They're supposed to uphold that oath and protect the patients and do what's best for them. And they're put in a position to where they can't do that. And it's
Well,
pretty frustrating.
and the tragic thing about this particular girl, I don't know anything about her. And yes, you heard her. She's sitting in a hospital room supporting a young woman who's going through some shit in a state she doesn't live in. So that gives you an idea of the diligence, tenacity, and compassion of Old Soul. But she is in this difficult physical situation, this medical situation, not because it was some emergency or something happened accidentally. This is strict. She's in this condition because her family and her church and the people around her refused to let her take the medication that she needed to take strictly because they thought it would hurt the baby. They didn't care whether it would hurt her. They just didn't want to hurt the baby. Do they understand if this poor girl dies, the baby dies too? Do they fucking get that?
I guess, and as crude as this sounds, I think that part of it was like, let her get far enough far enough along to where even if something happened to her, the baby would be okay. I
Right.
do honestly think just listening to her, that was the mindset. Like if we can get her to like 7, 8 months or whatever, then we're out of the woods at that point. So I think that they were trying to just let her get farther and further along, thinking that the baby would have a better chance of survival. To heck with what's going to happen to her. It was just about making sure the baby was okay.
People breeding animals are more thoughtful and compassionate than this. That's fucking amazing to me that people would take it to that point. And I got to tell you, treating your children like that, definitely not God's way. I think I think there was a comedian way before your time. His name was Flip Wilson, and he used to do this character on stage, Geraldine. He would dress in drag, and he'd be really funny. And devil made me do it. He also said, when you do something, God's going to get you. And I'll tell you what, God's going to get those motherfuckers because that is appalling, absolutely
Yeah.
appalling. Well, I wish you luck in this state. Any idea how long you have to stay?
No, we just basically want to make sure that she is good. She has all of her medications, so she's gonna get a 30-day supply here at the hospital. And then the doctors, I was like, hey, I think her insurance, because I work in insurance. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure she has mail order for her insurance. So they got the prescriptions set up for her mail order so she can get 90 days supply at a time so she doesn't have to go like every 30 days. So we have her medication set up. When she's a little bit more stable, I guess it's just back to the hotel, making sure she's good enough to where she can get a flight back home. And right now, that's the plan. There's no other plan outside of that. We just want to make sure you're good enough and strong enough to handle your travel back home. And
What about the
that's it.
procedure? What about the procedure? Is she having it done in
Oh,
the state
she
she's?
did that. Yeah,
Oh,
like as soon as we got here, they were just like, we need to have her stable enough so that we can get this procedure done. So it's just blood transfusion and all kind of stuff going on. I hate that she had to go through that by herself, but in a way, I was just kind of like, I'm glad that it took me a minute to get there because like the way she was like hooked up to stuff, I just like I didn't want to see all that. But she was just kind of like out of it when I got here, and then I could see her slowly starting to, come around, talk a little bit. She's pretty funny. She cracked a couple of jokes. Uh, but yeah, I think she's gonna be okay. She just has to, and you got to keep in mind, this is something she was born with,
right,
so it's not like it's the first time she's ever been like sick, but
right,
it's the first time that she's ever been this sick, and it's just because even the doctors was like, I can't believe she went that long without taking her medication,
right.
and they were just like, she was pretty lucky. So
Um,
I think maybe before she got on the plane, she wasn't feeling well. But I think she was just like, I have to do it. And I think she was trying to push herself to get to Vegas, but she just didn't make it.
Just a little tip, because you have a life, you have a job, you have a family, you have a podcast. Don't get too attached to this one, because you got enough trouble with the wild child down in Arizona. I assume you're hearing from her every day too, right?
Yeah, yeah. We talked about it's so weird when I think about like being their age, and I didn't follow politics like that, but these kids, they follow it now. And she was talking about Trump's trial, and she said, I think he would have did better if he would have had one of those sovereign citizen attorneys. I was just like,
Yeah, sure. That would be good. It couldn't
yeah,
hurt him. It's not going to hurt him. Well,
no.
let's talk about that. That's been the big news, Donald Trump's trial. We've been going around, dicking around with this, but now it's finally to the jury. Um, what's your gut feelings about what's going to happen here? I pretty much stated what I think is going to happen, but the jury has it. We know how the trial went. It did not go well for Donald Trump or the
Mhm.
defense team. What are you thinking here? How do you think this is all going to shake out?
I think he's gonna get convicted. I think that they are trying to I think they want to make sure that they put him as guilty, but they also want to make sure that kind of like these judges, how they have to make a decision but also back it up. So I think
Right.
that that's where the questions and stuff is coming from. They don't want to make it look like, oh, this was just too easy. They just want to go through every little thing to make sure they have enough information to back up, why they want to convict him. And I'm hoping that the jury picked up on these threats. I think when those members from college came, from Congress came, yeah, they were doing Trump's bidding, but I do think they were trying to make their presence known and
Oh,
letting like the jury, like, hey, you need to see us here. I think they were doing that. Um, I think when Trump's attorney was like, you might want to think twice about sending him to prison, that type of stuff. I really do think that there's been all these veiled threats going on in there, and I think that I'm hoping the jury picked up on that. And if they're anything like me, they're going to be like, "Oh, you thought you can threaten me? Oh no," you know. So that's what I'm hoping. The ones who are, I think it's two. I thought it was one before, but I was seeing today there's like two pro-Trump people on the jury. I'm just wondering for them, like, what kind of process this is going to be. Um,
yeah.
to
And,
just
and
know that what they thought. They didn't know that.
well, one of the things about Trump fans is they're ill-advised. Anytime I
Mhm.
talk to a Trump fan and I say, "What about this?" and they go, "I've never heard that."
Yeah,
And they've never heard it because they watch Fox News and Fox News never told them. Now
yeah.
they've sat in this room for, 8 weeks, and they've heard the facts. They couldn't help but hear the facts. They
Mhm.
also have a peer group around them that has a certain sense. And I always get these people coming to my page and they're saying, "Oh, just one guy and they're going to be a hung jury." First of all, the hung jury thing is a rare occasion. And I don't honestly believe that we're going to get any kind of hung jury. Secondly, even if there was a hung jury, that doesn't mean Donald Trump is free. They'll go back, regroup, and prosecute him again. Ultimately, it's a mistrial or a hung trial. It's not an exoneration for Donald Trump, even though he'd probably say that. What do you think about the hung jury type thing? You think that's?
I don't think so.
I don't think
They
so
got a
either.
front row seat to his antics and how childish he is. Um, I just don't think being in Trump's presence that amount of time for normal people is gonna go too well. The people
No.
that's around him constantly, um, it's transactional. They're not there because they want to be. They're not there because they care about him. Not even his children. It's transactional. That's all.
Yeah.
So when you have somebody who is not a transactional agreement or relationship there, they don't like him.
If there are
And you can
people,
tell they don't like him because they he has to Photoshop pictures of himself with real people.
yeah, yeah, that's. Oh, we had millions here. Well, you had 42. Yeah, Donald. I mean, you can just look at Donald Trump's face the last few times we've seen him on the screen. He's deteriorating. Things
Yeah.
are, as he once said, I'll quote him, he's going through some things. And I think he's
Yeah.
panicking at this point. He doesn't really know what to do. He's never been held accountable before. Everything he's ever gotten into, he's able to talk louder, lie, divert, distract, whatever. And that's just not going to happen in this case. He is going to be convicted. You know, what a lot of people don't understand is some people think that he has to be convicted of all 34 or none. And that's not the case. He could be convicted of two
Mm-mm.
things and let go on the others, or
Yeah.
10 things, or 20 things. And for my money, I don't care how many it is ultimately. I mean, the more, the better. But
Yeah.
one conviction, three convictions, five convictions, that's the end game there, regardless, as long as there are convictions.
I think so. And I think his constant being in the media with all of these crazy little, I don't know, little stunts and shows that he's doing. It's just a reminder to people who weren't paying attention, that's paying attention now, who he is, why we didn't vote for him, why we didn't want him around. Like nobody likes toxicity and chaos all the time, unless you like hardcore within the Republican Party. That's
Yeah.
just, I mean, that's just how they move, but most people don't move like that. And I know he's trying to get the the black the black man vote, but he's just offending people. Like you sitting here pulling like gangbangers and murderers up on the stage with you. You photoshopping yourself with grills in your mouth and like you know how offensive that is? You're sitting here telling black people, I want your vote because you hood, because you ghetto, because you a thug, because you got grills. So I'm gonna do all this stuff, this type of stuff to make you vote for me, not knowing that in certain groups of people there's like a small group that's overrepresented, and he's just going for that small group that's overrepresented. They don't even think that mess is cool. So
But, but,
it's just
but
weird that he's pissing people off and he don't even know it. It's
Right.
so weird.
Well, in his mind, he figures that all black people are ghetto gangsters, all wearing grills, all rapping and doing all that stuff. It's the same thing as for some reason he thinks with Kid Rock that he's hitting a demographic of fake rednecks. You know, he just doesn't have a clue. He'll sidle up next to anybody that says they like him, and will try to convince whatever crowd likes this particular group of people. I'll be honest with you. Um, Kid Rock's audience has diminished quite a bit from 20 years ago.
Yeah,
So he's not the hot guy to, and the whole thing with people of color, it reveals his racism and his
yeah.
stupidity and his ignorance.
Hmm.
I mean,
You can tell by, you know, like when it comes to like Kid Rock and Rosie O'Donnell and all these people, it's like, oh, celebrities are great. They're endorsing Trump. But then Robert De Niro come out and be like, yeah, I think he a clown. And they're like, oh my gosh, look at the Democrats. They're leaning on celebrities and all this other stuff. And it's just like, if they, it's like if they didn't have hypocrisy, they wouldn't have nothing at all. And
right.
so I think most people with common sense, we look at that and we know that. I think they just think more people are stupid than people who actually are stupid.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you know, Donald Trump showed the wear and tear on his mind after the court case, or the day in court to yesterday. He came
Yeah,
out. This was hilarious. He came out. Now Donald Trump, um, he comes out after every day in court with a stack of papers. He's hired somebody to track down positive press about him and negative press about the charges and the case. So he stands there and he reads it like, this is proof. I'm telling the truth, and it isn't working at all. Well,
mm-mm.
yesterday when he started reading the first one, he was having a lot of trouble. I mean, he was slipping and sliding and misspeaking and garbled and just confused. And then on Twitter, or X, or whatever we call it now, the Biden Harris headquarters, HQ is what it's called, the campaign. It
I
came
like
out,
their pettiness.
it comes out and says, uh, doddering Trump, I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it here in front of me. Doddering Trump was stumbling through his emotional support papers and couldn't complete a sentence. It was just, I'm sure this is pissing off Donald Trump to no extent. And this is what they need to do. They need to keep coming at him and embarrassing him.
Yeah, I didn't see that, like, some of the stuff that I missed, I was, like, here, so I missed some of the stuff, but I was seeing, some backlash. I saw Charlemagne the God on, Fox News,
Yeah.
and, he is, like, one of these people who I think he kinda, like, flip-flops on his opinion,
Yeah, he
but so they
does.
invited him on there, he's a black guy, he has a lot of people that follow him that take his lead, and I was expecting for him to go on Fox News and, like, flop to the right like he typically does, and he didn't. He just said, he talked about terminating the Constitution. I think he's a threat to democracy, and I think that if he gets back in there, he is not going to leave, and, I just said to myself, like, when you've lost that guy in my community, you pretty much lost most of them.
Yeah.
There's just
Yeah.
I think that they should give up on that bracket of people that they're going after and maybe try to find another group. We already know the libertarians ain't with him. So,
Well,
I don't know
well,
where he gonna scrounge these votes up from, but I think he thinking he gonna get them from somewhere. I don't know.
when you talk about Charlemagne the God, this radio guy or podcast, I don't know which one it is. I've never really watched it. My son used to watch him all the time. When I finally
Yeah.
did start watching him, uh, he seemed to me to just be a black Joe Rogan, going back
Yep.
and forth, whatever's going to get the audience. And then we hear
You hit
him
the
do,
nail on the head with that one. You really
yeah,
did.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's all he was, and I wasn't a fan of either. At first Joe Rogan was kind of fun entertainment, and then it just got, I don't know, just got fucking messy. And that seemed to be the case with Charlemagne the God too. He was kind of like that too.
Yeah.
And hopefully he's going to get better. Now there was something else I wanted to bring up about what Donald Trump said after court
I think
yesterday.
I think I know what happened to Charlemagne the God.
What's that?
He not too long ago he had Jasmine Crockett
Oh,
on his show, and she was talking to him and he was like, "Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that." Like you can tell that things that he thought he knew, he found out he didn't, and she got them together. So I think that that maybe could have, I don't want to say swayed him, but it could have encouraged him to at least look into the stuff that he was saying, because when what he was saying on Fox, I don't know where that came from, but he surprised the host because what's that guy that think he's funny? Oh my God. He
oh
was
yeah,
like, Charlamagne was talking and he was like, "Oh, really? You think that?" Like you could tell they were completely caught off guard
yeah.
of what he was saying. So
Well,
I think she did her thing on that show when she talked to him.
I wouldn't go against Jasmine Crockett. No way. I've been married too long, know too much about women. And you got a woman like Jasmine Crockett, I'm just going to say she'll fuck you up.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
not fall asleep.
Yeah, and I think that's the importance because we do have like some younger people on the Democratic side now, and I think they kind of know the power of social media a little bit
Yeah.
more. But not only that, but they're not afraid to go in certain spaces and like have those conversations, So you would never expect to see, I'm trying to think of somebody young on the Republican side. I don't know, Matt Gates or something. You
Yeah.
don't expect for him to go on, The Breakfast Club or Drink Champs or, like AOC, she does what's that one where they play the video games, Twitch and stuff?
Yeah.
They don't do stuff like that, but our side does. And I think that's reaching a different audience than what they targeted before. So I think that's good.
When I watched Donald Trump speak after court yesterday, after the
Hmm.
jury went to deliberate, I sensed a certain amount of desperation. That's part of the reason why he was garbling what he was saying with those documents. Um,
Yeah.
but he also said something else interesting. And I don't know if it's he's ignorant or he's just desperate or what it is. But he was
Both.
talking, yeah, he was talking about the witnesses, and he was saying, it's funny, you didn't see them call some of the witnesses because they were afraid they were going to make me look innocent. And he brought up
Mm.
one particular witness, didn't name him by name, but he says, this gentleman would have told the truth. And they've got him suffering now these Democratic judicial system. He's suffering now. Now, of course, who he's talking about is Alan Weisselberg. And he was complaining that the prosecution didn't call him, maybe Don Jr., maybe Eric, didn't call those people. But here's the funny thing is,
How easy do you have to be to throw your children in your crap? But
but but
okay, go
but
ahead.
but the thing is, he's complaining about the prosecution not bringing these people to the stand, and his lawyer Todd Blanche is standing right next to him, nodding his head. Yeah, yeah, what he said is true. You motherfuckers could have called him.
Yeah,
You could have called Alan Weisselberg. You could have called Donald Trump Jr. So he's trying to shame the prosecution for not bringing him up, but they didn't have the courage or the temerity to do it themselves. Does Donald Trump not understand that? Is he just assuming that people are stupid and he's going to try to sell that? I don't know. I really honestly believe that Donald Trump is dumb and that he doesn't think about what he says and he just says whatever comes out of his mouth. He's unhinged and he has no filter and it just spews out like vomit.
I think Donald Trump knows something that we all know, and that is he can tell his base whatever he wants, anything that he wants, and they're just gonna roll with it. And then for those who don't get accurate information, he's just kind of using his base as backup. So it's kind of like when it was upcoming to the election. He primed them months before the election that he was going to lose, it was going to be rigged, and it wasn't going to be fair. Like he primed them ahead of time. So when he lost, they were like, "Yep, we knew that was going to happen. We knew those mail-in ballots was fraud." Like they knew that because he primed them for that. And I think that this is the same thing. He's just priming them to let them know, "Yeah, I'm going to lose, and the reason I'm going to lose is because they didn't call witnesses. They talked down to my attorneys. They did this." He's giving them reasons to, when they hear that he's found guilty, that they're not going to think that this is fair and this is just because of all these things that happened along the way, all these things Trump was complaining about. That's why he got convicted, because it wasn't fair. So he's just lining everything up so when he
Right.
is convicted, they know why he lost. They're not going to look at what really happened in the court or read transcripts or anything like that. They're just going to go, every day Trump said this and this is what happened. They take it as like the gospel truth. So he's just priming them
Yeah.
for him being convicted. That's all.
Well, that's one of the reasons I feel so confident that Donald Trump will win or lose the election in November if he is the nominee. And there's many reasons that I believe that, but one of the main reasons is that the Republicans believe that. We know the Republicans believe that because they're doing exactly what you said they did in 2020. They're
Mm-hmm.
already talking about a rigged election. They're already talking about a stolen election. Even before 2024's election in November has come, they know
Yeah,
in their hearts, anybody with half a fucking brain knows that Donald Trump is going to lose. So, like you say, they're prepping the situation so they have an
yeah,
excuse when they do lose.
yeah. And I mean, just think how crappy that is to the people that support them. Like
Yeah.
that's just horrible. You know what I mean? Like you put them in a position to where they are living in a completely different reality, but it's just so easy to manipulate and control these people with just straight up I can't even say like half truths anymore. These are just flat out lies.
Yeah.
Just flat out lies. Like the stuff they say is not true at all whatsoever. It's just it's irritating because it should not be allowed, and the fact that they are just allowed to do it is it's frustrating to no end. It's
Well,
really frustrating.
well, there was a time in this country when even the most despicable people wouldn't spew these lies because they are so ridiculous. Even they knew nobody would buy into that shit and they wouldn't do it. These
Yeah.
fucks say anything. It doesn't make a difference if it's believable or not. They feel empowered to spew absolute nonsense.
I saw someone talking about there's a documentary on Netflix called Butterfly in the Sky, that Reading Rainbow documentary, and I seen someone talking about it, so I downloaded it and I was watching it on a plane. And Newt Gingrich, he said, and this will let me know like the Republican Party, like we've changed, times have changed, we've moved on. Republicans haven't.
No.
His number one goal, and they played this in the documentary, was to shut down PBS. And when you
Yeah.
think about PBS, it's what, Sesame Street, Mr. Robert Rogers' Neighborhood, Reading Rainbow, and
Right.
I thought at first like maybe he targeted Reading Rainbow because it was a black guy, but no, he was talking like targeting all of the educational free programming. So they've never wanted the children or the public to be educated. They never wanted them to grow and evolve and have things in common with people that they didn't think they would have things in common with. Their goal has always been to just kind of like dumb down the electric of the, you know, us people that
Electric,
vote.
the electorate.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
to keep us dumbed down so we don't know any better. And when you're ignorant and when you don't know any better, you're easy to manipulate and to control. And you can see it going from him all the way to where it is now, because you can see within the Republican Party, they literally control these people because they are ignorant, because they don't know better. Um, and it's sad to see that they're doing this to people.
Well, there
I
are
just They
there are
shouldn't be allowed to do it. It's like at some point, and Reading Rainbow was like when I was a child. So it's like 40 something years. And they still have the same plan of just controlling people.
right.
It's
Well,
like at what point do we just say, no, y'all not gonna do that? I think the Republican Party does have to end because that's their only objective. It's not to improve your life, it's not to make things better for you or anything. It's just to control you. And
yeah.
I think for me, I always thought like we need two political parties or whatever. I think we do, but I just don't think the Republican Party is one of them. I
The
don't think so.
Republican Party is antiquated and behind the times, and that's clear. I
Yeah.
remember when they were trying to shut down PBS, and the whole point of it
Oh,
was,
do you?
oh yeah, I was alive. I think Truman was the
I just
president,
learned
but
about it.
no, I no, I knew about it, and I actually worked for a public radio station, and
Mm,
they were at risk too. They weren't part of NPR, but that public radio, but it was a public radio station. And the whole point of it is they begrudged the government for putting money into public radio. They didn't think that should happen. They have no problem with putting $1 trillion into the Defense Department. They have no problem
right.
putting $2 trillion into wealthy people. But this goes back from long before I was born. Republicans have always fought against giving back to the middle class. It's always been to the rich. And the
Mm.
Democrats have tried to go the other way. And they've told these stories about how money is wasted on welfare and all this sort of stuff. And it's absolute ridiculous. But there's a certain faction of people that want to hear it, they want to believe it, so they do. And you're right, this is the same story they've been telling for 60, 70 years. Well, 60 years anyway. And there
Do
are
you
still
think
people
that
that buy
do you
into
think
it.
they've Do you think they've succeeded at all? Because like that's my conflict. Because what they were trying to do before, it does seem like they've accomplished some of these goals. Like
Yeah,
they're getting rid of like DEI, which I mean they make it seem like like a bad word. Critical race theory and all this stuff that wasn't even taught in elementary schools in the first place. But as far as like banning certain books, you can't do that. They're pulling certain curriculums from certain universities. You have PragerU, an actual, like, they're teaching that in Florida schools.
right,
PragerU, aka slavery was beneficial for both parties.
right.
It just, I'm feeling like in some ways when it comes to that, they are succeeding. And I'm just like, how long does it take to undo all of that? So it's like we made all of these strides going forward, but then we just go all the way back. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm sitting in the hospital, like hiding out, can't tell anybody where I'm at or where this child is, where she doesn't have the rights that I had just a few years ago. We
Right.
don't have the same rights anymore. So you roll back women's rights, you roll back the protections that we have for domestic violence victims. You really do want a man beating his wife to be able to go out and buy as many guns and as much ammo as he wants. Like I don't understand that part. So it makes me think that the reason that they keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing is because they are making progress. When you see that they've torn down so much stuff, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, I will say this about PragerU. One positive note I can say about PragerU, they do serve Trump steaks in the cafeteria, so that's a plus. There's a lot of extra Trump steaks sitting around someplace. Uh,
I
but
thought
do I?
they served it at Lauren Boebert's restaurant. That's where
Yeah,
everybody was
yeah,
sick, but
yeah, probably. But I'll answer your question. Then we'll take a break and we'll talk more about it. But do I think the Republicans have been successful? Yeah, absolutely, they've been successful. Everything we
yeah,
see shows it's been successful, and they've been successful for decades. Maybe not all at one time, but over a period of time, they've
yeah,
slowly degraded this country to what they believe is what it should be. And yes, so they have been successful. And that's why it's incumbent on us to put a stop to it and then push it back. And we can do that in November when it comes to the election. I tell you what, old soul, let's take a quick break. You don't have to change an IV or something, do you? Because you're in a
nope. I'm just
hospital.
gonna.
Just gonna sit here and
I'm gonna sit in
chill.
the utility closet.
Okay. Okay. All right. We are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Old Soul is with us in an interesting situation. She's sitting in a utility closet in a hospital in a state she doesn't live in, as she is offering comfort to a young girl that she doesn't know. So, based on that, you know where we're going with this with Old Soul. We'll
I'm
talk
getting
more.
to know her. I know her cousin a little bit more because she hasn't been feeling well, but I'm
Yeah.
glad that they got each other. I hate that they have that experience with that family member together, but I'm glad they got each other though.
Well, that's good, and we
Yeah,
wish her the best. And hopefully she gets well soon and can get back on track and not get too harassed when she goes back to her home state. You asked you asked the question of whether the Republicans have been successful in their efforts to pretty much upend this country, overturn democracy, and work against the middle class. And you brought up Newt Gingrich,
hmm,
Ronald Reagan. That was kind of the start of the deterioration of this country. If they
yeah,
could have, they would have done it all at once when they were in power. But it took time. Like anything in politics, it takes time. They slowly but surely did that. I
yeah,
mean, to be honest with you, Ronald Reagan even agreed with Roe v. Wade back in the day. He knew it was here to stay. But over time, with some degradation and some less than ethical people running for office and taking office, like the Newt Gingriches, all the way up to the Mitch McConnells, it has degraded over the years. And hopefully now people are recognizing that
yeah,
this has happened. This has happened in this country because we allowed it to happen. We had
yeah,
the opportunity to stop it, and we chose not to. Now it's gotten out of control. People are in danger. People are suffering and struggling. Now the question is, have we had enough? Are we going to
mm,
fucking change it? I think we will.
yeah. Because I've asked myself, and it's crazy that like one documentary could make you look at something different. Because I was like, why do the Republicans keep doing this? They fail at everything that they do.
Yeah,
But then
true.
when you look at it, you're like, no, they don't really fail. They succeeded in overturning Roe v. Wade. They've succeeded in rolling back Violence Against Women Act. Like they've just piece by piece taken that apart. Um, they've successfully made the NRA just like an idol to some people in this country.
Right.
Um, so the reason that they keep going is because they've been succeeding like bit by bit. Um, I do think that we need to just push back just as forcefully. I don't like this playing fair stuff. I don't like this when they go low, we go high type of stuff, because that doesn't work with uncivilized people.
No.
Like you come at me, I'm gonna come at you 10 times harder. And I do
Right.
think we need that mentality. And we all see that they're cowards at the end of the day.
Right.
Um, and they hide behind victimhood. They hide behind racism. Just when I look at them, I see Nikki Haley. I seen her writing on that bomb that's going into Gaza.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, you are doing all of this for a man. Your husband is not a vet. He's like an active duty service member.
Right.
You're doing this for a man who said that he's a loser and a sucker. You're doing this for somebody who called you a bird brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ted Cruz, I'm like, what else could he have done to your wife besides walked up to her and slapped her in the face? He called her every name in the book, and you turn around and you just kiss his butt like that. That
Well,
kind of cowardice, they're not going to be hard to beat. We just have to want to do it.
well, you bring up a good point. These people have stood by Donald Trump, I think, too long,
Oh,
to the
yeah, definitely.
to their detriment. When this is all said and done, they are going to suffer with the stench of Donald Trump, literal and figurative, stench
And
of
they
Donald
should.
Trump for a lifetime, for the rest of their careers. Um, I personally think that these convictions coming in the Manhattan trial are going to be a pivot point, a paradigm shift, or whatever. I think that's the one. It may not turn it completely, but it is the beginning of the end for like Donald Trump and people who won't be able to stomach him anymore after he's been convicted of 10 or 15 or 20 criminal charges. What do you think is going to happen when those convictions come down? How do you think it's going to affect things?
I think we're going to see the Republican Party have like one big, like massive temper tantrum, like all of them.
Yeah, you're right.
But I do think that it's going to be a narrative switch to where it's not going to be like, oh, Donald Trump's a bad guy. He's a loser or whatever. It's going to be more like, we love Donald Trump. We love his policies, but he's just not capable of getting things done. So we have to go to someone else. I think they're going to dress up when they turn their backs on him, they're going to dress it up to make it look like something that it's not. Um, I think that's what's going to happen, but I do think they're going to turn their back on him. I don't know who they're going to have to fill their shoes. And then the thing is, they allow for him to be so bullish and so toxic that when he's turning it on us, it's like, okay, that's cool. But it's going to be like that times 10 against them. You remember when Jordan was trying to be the Speaker of the House? Oh, sorry, that's funny.
That
And they
is
were getting
funny.
all of death threats and all of that stuff. I think it's going to be directed towards them like tenfold because his base is going to see everybody as a rhino and as a traitor. So I think we're just going to watch them cannibalize themselves. But in the meantime, while they're distracted and they're doing that, we really do have to make progress and take advantage of the time and the opportunities that we have. Because people aren't going to believe in your party if they're not reaping the benefits of it. They have to feel that they're doing better and not just see, oh, the biggest job numbers ever. Okay, yeah, but I can get a job, but I can't live making, $10 an hour or something like
Right.
that. I think people have to not see the change, but like feel it within their own selves in order
Uh,
for them to make the Democrats stronger.
Absolutely. Now, I heard somebody say on TikTok, I can't remember who it was, but they were suspecting, and I tend to agree with them, that the moment he gets convicted, there'll be a lot of more normal minded, not minded people that will step away from him. But as you said, the base will
Mm-hmm.
ramp things up. They'll have a
Yep.
tantrum. They'll get more, they'll double down, they'll triple down. And I don't know anything about investing in stocks. But here's a tip I would give people the moment Donald Trump gets convicted: find whatever company makes blue suits and red ties and invest in that motherfucker because there's going to be a lot of them.
I think that the base is gonna be lit because he is gonna be the one lighting the match up under their butts.
Yeah,
I think that Republicans, they don't seem to think that this monster that they're creating has the ability to turn on them. Why they think that, I don't know, because every single person that Donald Trump has embraced and that's given them any kind of platform, he is the one that single-handedly tears them down.
right.
Why everybody seems to think that they're going to be the one that's different, they're going to be the one to outmaneuver that, I don't know. But I do think that they're going to be in for a rude awakening with him. I just don't want for Democrats not to take advantage of the opportunity to do what needs to be done or be kind of like timid or scared to to, you have this power, don't be scared to wield it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Donald Trump didn't hesitate. He didn't say, okay, I want to do this, but let's make sure everybody agrees on it. He just did it.
Right.
So I think that we should be able to do that as well. We don't need to ask them to co-sign on this or co-sign on that. If we have like a majority and we don't need their help, do what it is that you need to do. I don't want this norms and tradition that everybody has to come to some kind of agreement. That's not how you're going to make things better. You can't be weak when you're standing up for democracy or you're standing up for people. You know what I mean? Like, you
I
can't be
agree.
weak and you
Yeah.
can't be scared. I
Well,
don't want to see that.
I think when you get the power, then you just shove it down their fucking throat because you
Yeah.
can't trust them. I was going,
Hmm.
I get a lot of people coming to my page, both Democrat and Republican, that are saying, "Oh, it's going to get crazy when he's convicted. Going to be a civil war. There's going to be all kinds of violence." There's one clown on TikTok. He's this ginger redneck stupid motherfucker that says, "If you convict Donald Trump, you know what's going to happen." And then people stitch it by going, "What? Nothing's going to happen." And people are convinced that there's going to be violence because there was violence in 2021 on January 6th. And I just don't see it because, I mean, the jury's in deliberation now. That decision could come tomorrow or
Yeah.
today. Where the fuck
I
are these
saw
people? Where the hell are
I
they?
saw I
Nobody
saw
there.
on C-SPAN when the attorneys were giving their closing arguments, and some of his supporters showed up for that, right?
Hmm.
But these were like, my daughter's gonna kill me because she does not like this word. But those people were like loony, like cuckoo. They were walking around dressed like that shaman dude with the horns, and the one guy with his like belly out. There was another guy burning sage, like waving it in the air of the press and all this stuff. The only people that showed up for him was clowns.
Right,
Now,
right,
if you scared to go to war with Bozo, I don't want you on my side. These people were just straight up fools. They was clowns. The only time that, even when Robert De Niro was speaking, the only time they had harsh words for him is when there were a barricade between them.
right,
Other than
right.
that, they kept their mouth shut. But it's like, okay, when the barricade ain't here, step to me. You want to wait till it's a barricade there to start talking trash? You want to go somewhere, sit down somewhere? It was just clowns. If there was no Proud Boys out there was no skinheads or none of that stuff. It was just a bunch of clowns. Even Trump was like, I want like the January 6th people. Those are the people I want at my trial.
Well,
And
they're in
he's upset
jail.
because that's not what, yeah,
They're
he's
in jail,
upset because
right?
that's not what he's getting. He wants those people, but those are the people that's not showing up for him. Why? He ain't bail them out. He ain't do nothing for them. He out
Yeah.
there talking trash now and singing their songs and all that other kind of stuff. But when he had the opportunity to stand up for them, he didn't. So
I,
they're not supposed to ride or die for him like that. I don't know why people they're gonna be keyboard warriors and talk trash online, but that's it.
right.
That's it.
I have to make an observation here because when you were talking there, you said, "I don't want to say this word because my daughter hates it," and I'm thinking, here we go, we're gonna hear a motherfucker out of Old Soul, and she says the word loony. You come on to the Rational
Yeah.
Boomer podcast and you feel shame for saying the word loony? Please.
Well, I know when you're in psychiatry and there's people with mental health issues, it's dismissive to call them crazies, loonies, and all that other kind of stuff. So I try not to say that stuff, but I don't have another way of describing these people unless sick in the head, but that don't sound much better.
Well, if your daughter is listening to the Rational Boomer podcast, there's some book there with a lot of black check marks after my name, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
You
She can
hear what
forgive you, but she won't forgive me for it because she'll be like, Mom, you should know better.
I could just see your daughter going, "That motherfucker said loony."
That's exactly what she would do.
I know, I know, I know, I know.
She's told me that a couple of times. You could have just sweared. Why'd you have to say that?
Yeah, I got to tell you, if I was worried about hurting people's feelings, I would have had a different TikTok and a different podcast. But um, good people, I don't mean to hurt their feelings. You just have to understand. Uh, I'm unsophisticated. This is the way I talk. It's not like I'm throwing in swear words just to get viewers. This is how I talk, and I can govern it a little bit when I'm around my granddaughter, or if I'm on the radio or something like that. But when I'm normally talking, I say the F word, and most people aren't bugged by it. A lot of people are. Doesn't matter. You got your choice. You can listen or not. And if you don't like the fact that I swear, you're fucking loony. Sorry, old soul's daughter. Um, anyway, I wanted to bring something else up too because it first of all, people are really worried about all the trials, and I try to tell people if you've got a lot of shit going on, focus on the one thing, the first thing, get it done, get it behind you, get
Yeah,
fuel from that success, and then move to the next one. If you try to take it all on at once, you're going to fail because you'll be overwhelmed. And we have this thing going down in Florida, and people have been freaking out
mm,
about Florida because of Aileen Cannon, that judge there who's slow walking things and biased toward Donald Trump and is inept, incompetent, and corrupt. Other than
yeah.
that, she's fine. But
What a peach.
yeah, what a peach. So, anyway, Jack Smith is trying to find a way to get her off the case. And she's done many things that would justify that, except she's been very shady or sneaky about it. She either
Yeah.
does the non-written, well, her
Oh, those
docket is a mess.
paperless orders that she
Paperless
does.
orders, yeah,
Hmm.
or they will be scheduling, and all of those things you're not able to appeal to the 11th Circuit. So now Donald Trump is out there and he's talking about how Joe Biden, the FBI, are trying to assassinate him, which is crazy and ridiculous and dangerous because it
Yeah.
does put our law enforcement in danger. So Jack Smith makes a pleading and said, hey, we need to expand the release order, give him a gag so he doesn't put law enforcement at risk. Now, she was kind of put in a spot there, but I'll give her credit. She's kind of gaming the situation. The choice was to side with Donald Trump and get appealed to the 11th Circuit and probably get kicked off the case, or go with Jack Smith and piss off Donald Trump. What's she going to do? Well, she did what Republicans do. She didn't do either. She
Yeah.
kind of inkled which way she's going, but she basically said, I can't rule on this because you weren't polite enough or you didn't do whatever procedure. She
Yeah.
completely negated the whole idea that it is urgent and dangerous right now to people's lives. She disregarded that. So now Jack Smith has to come back with another pleading to fill in what she's demanding, which is ridiculous. But it's just like her to not make decisions so she doesn't put herself out on a plank. She doesn't want to piss off Donald Trump. She doesn't want to get appealed, but she's going to have to in this case. Jack Smith isn't stupid. He's going to pigeonhole her, and she's either going to have to go with Donald Trump or go with Jack Smith. Um, how worried are you about the whole Florida thing? Because I'm not worried about it yet at all because I'm still dealing with the Manhattan district. We'll get through that. And then I think a lot of things change in this world, the vibe, the whole climate of things. I want to get through the Manhattan district, but are you thinking about the Florida thing at all?
No, I used to all the time, but
Hmm.
what made me stop thinking about it is A, it wasn't going at the rate that I wanted it to.
Right,
Jack Smith, he knows more than me, but I was wanting him to do what I wanted him to do, and he
right.
wasn't doing that. So I just came to my mindset that, we just have to do this for ourselves because the system is doing the system. It's up to us to make sure that we educate, vote, be there for each other, whatever we have to do to get through it. So I don't look at it the same way that I used to. I'm just kind of watching like this little dance that her and Jack Smith are doing. I'm just watching that. But it does prove that I thought she was just kind of like Trump's dude. She doesn't have that much experience. She ain't that smart. That's what I was thinking. But the way she's moving, it shows that she is smart and she is calculating. That helper knows exactly what she's doing. And I'm just watching to see who's going to win in the end. Of course, I'm like watching a Marvel movie. I want the good guy to win, but I'm just watching it from that angle. Um, I think Jack Smith is going to go through the steps that she told him, which is basically, this is how stupid it is. This is how I comprehended it. What she was saying is he has to go to Trump's team and ask them if they would agree to the gag order, wait for them to respond. And then once they respond and say no, which of course they will, at that point, then he can submit for the gag order. So
Right.
that's just petty. And I think that as a woman, like, I can't get mad at that level of petty. She shouldn't be allowed to do it, but it's just really petty what she's doing. So I think Jack Smith is going to just bite that bullet. He's going to go through the steps of what she told him to do. Trump's team is going to take their time. Then they're going to come out and tell him no, and then he's going to appeal it again. And I think at that point she will be in a bind. But as long as Trump's team is pushing it around, not taking it seriously, not responding, and all this other kind of stuff, it makes her feel like she's sitting in a good spot.
Well,
But I'm just looking at it like that.
and the thing about it is go ahead and delay all you want because Donald
Yeah,
Trump is getting convicted this week and you can't fucking stop it. That's,
yeah,
I've said before, you worry about those things you can control or that are imminent. Um, what's going on in Florida, Georgia, all this other shit we can't control. If all those three cases dropped off the face of the earth, the fact that this one is going through and he's going to be convicted, that would be enough to take out any politician in America. It's a little tougher with Donald Trump, but these convictions are going to have a serious impact on Donald Trump's future. And you can see it in his face, you can hear it in his voice. This is causing him problems. He is going through some things. And
yeah.
these convictions will be enough to end it for Donald Trump. So if the other ones come later, uh, I don't really care. I don't really care. I just want him done and out of the equation. And I think this will be the first step to get that done.
Yeah, I think that Jack Smith he's like pulling his punches a little bit. And I think that the reason he is doing that is because he knows that after the election, he can hit him harder.
Yeah.
I think that right now he's just, pulling his punches, he's just biting his teeth, just doing what he needs to do. And then I think after the election, when you take away that, they just don't want me to be in office or whatever the right wing is telling themselves at that time, I think at that point, Trump will be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think anybody who is smart and they make tactical decisions and they move in a certain way, they want to wait until you're vulnerable before they hit you. And that's the reason why, unlike Trump, that wasn't a raid. When regular people where I'm from get raided, you get raided at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're in the bed asleep, or
Right.
when you laid up with your girl and you ain't got no drawers on, that type of stuff. So I think, I'm sorry,
No, no, no. You're right. You're
I
right.
forgot who I was talking to for a minute.
And I don't know that from personal experience. I've heard.
I think he's just waiting for Trump to be more vulnerable, and he'll be at his most vulnerable after the election. So I do think, as frustrated as we get with Jack Smith, because I get frustrated too, you have to strike when he is at his weakest.
Yeah.
And, when you think about it, the election is not that far off.
No.
Um, and I do think we'll see some hard hitting after that.
Well,
We'll see him a little different.
and I think after this trial is done and the verdict's in, as soon as he's convicted, Donald Trump will be more vulnerable than he ever has before, even before the
Hmm.
election. And there'll be more things happening there. The country's focus will be on the other trials, not this trial anymore. They will have already spanked Donald Trump and
Yeah.
convicted him. So he will be more vulnerable. Um, and the bottom line is that no matter what happens after these convictions and whether the others come after the court case for the next 3, 4, 5 years, Donald Trump is going to be in court cases. No matter how they can only delay it so long, he's going to be in court cases, and his life is essentially over because he may get jail time, he may not get jail time again. I don't really care about that as long as the convictions hit. That is the key to this because it's
Yeah.
going to fuck with his head because it's something he can't say hoax, fake, it didn't really happen. It happened
Hmm.
and we all know it happened and there's nothing he can do about it. And if there's anything that fucks with a narcissist head, it's being in a position that you can't talk your way out of.
Yeah. But he's a narcissist with diminished capacity. You know what I
True.
mean? When
True.
you see him reading or trying to read,
Yeah.
when he's trying to read off of that paper, if you notice, he gets more and more like irritated and frustrated as he reads. And the reason is because he's not able to read and compute what he's reading at the same time. So he's used to like ad-libbing. He can read a sentence, then he can add his own little spin on it. But now he's not even able to do that. So he's reading, but he can't like expand on anything he's reading. He can't like ad lib or anything. So as he's reading and he's not able to do that, he gets frustrated because he's not comprehending what he's reading. So when you see him reading that paper and he's getting mixed up on his words and all that other kind of stuff, it's because he's struggling
Right.
to read, comprehend, and stay on topic. The fact that he is this far gone in his mind, I don't know how the Republican Party is trying to act like that's just non-existent. You can see this man is slipping. Like his cheese is just sliding off the cracker. I I don't understand why he is why and for me, if I was in the Republican Party, like let's say I was, I don't know, Nikki Haley or somebody. I see what he is right now. This is the time for me to pounce. And
Right.
if you would think for these, if they weren't cowards, oh, they would have they'd have took him out a long time ago. If I
Well,
was a top Republican, I would have been got all up in his butt.
well,
I don't know why they sit there letting him drive the boat. He just to run them off a cliff in that thing.
right. Well, I've said before that all these vice presidential hopefuls aren't even vice presidential hopefuls. They're waiting for him to slip off the cracker, if you will, and then they could be the heir apparent. I think, I think that once those convictions
But
are
then
in,
why would you want to inherit that though?
well, because they're desperate to
You
be
know what I
there.
mean? Like,
They're
yeah, but if
desperate.
I want to inherit something, I want to inherit a mansion and some money. I want to inherit your two-bedroom shack that the roof is caving in. You know what? Like, why would you want to inherit that? I think anybody who is smart in the Republican Party right now, they would just sit back and watch it play out. Like you don't want to be associated with that. And
Right.
to me, the fact that they are so close to it, they fighting over these crumbs and stuff. It's like, no, just sit back and just watch it play out. And then you can just swoop on up in there.
Well,
I don't get the lack of strategy here.
the reason why the Republicans are holding on so tightly to Donald Trump in spite of all that's gone wrong is something I
Yeah.
mentioned before, and that is that if Donald Trump isn't the nominee, there's a good chance all his cult members won't vote at all. So that not only affects the presidential election, but all the down ballot elections, the House of Representatives, the Senate, the legislatures in the state, the governorship. They need that in order to keep the Trumplifucks or the base to vote. But there's another reason for it too. They don't really have a replacement candidate. You can talk about Nikki Haley or Vivek Ramaswamy. None of them have enough support to win anything. None of them could unify the Republican Party and win anything. They really have nothing to back up Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is a whole lot of fucking nothing. So the Republican Party's in immense trouble.
It is, but I think that the best thing to do is just to be able to like shake off the dead weight. And I think it's smart to just go to the Republican Party and unite the same people and just say, hey, these people over here, them clowns, they're making us look bad. So we need to stay together because we don't have them anymore. We don't want to be associated with them because they're making us look like jokes, right? So what we need to do is get the same people in the Republican Party, and then we need to sway some independent voters, some Democrat voters that's not happy with Biden, some of these young people that has a grudge against the way he's handling Gaza. We need to get us together, and then we can make this happen. But
Yeah,
trying
but
to hold on to dead weight is going to do nothing but sink your ship. And I think that is a miscalculation on their part, because if you shook them, you would be better off. But for
well,
whatever reason, they keep hanging on to the crazies and the
I
clowns.
I don't know that
But I do
that's
think
I know
there's
I
plenty
don't
of
know.
them in Congress too. So
Yeah, I don't know that that's true because the time to shake off the dead weight would have been right after the inauguration of Joe Biden. They should have let him
uh,
go, cut bait, and let him go. But Kevin
that's true.
McCarthy went in there and brought him back in the fold. Now they can get rid of Donald
Mm,
Trump, but how do the Republicans recover from overturning Roe v. Wade. It just wasn't Donald Trump. It was the whole Republican Party. It's red states. So no matter who they get, they got to fight against overturning Roe v. Wade, them doing that, and 70% of the country against them on that. That's why it doesn't matter who they run, they're going to fucking lose.
You know, when you just said Kevin McCarthy had to run down there,
Yeah,
put his hand in Trump's pocket, it made me think that that one decision could have been the decision that put them on the course that they're currently on. If
absolutely.
they would have kept that same energy after Biden was inaugurated, and if they would have all like just stood together, like, hey, this dude tried to have an insurrection, we're not dealing with him. And if they would have continued what they do with Roe v. Wade, not overturn it, but keep complaining about it and keep fundraising off of it, that could have made a difference. But the
Yeah,
fact that he took his butt to Mar-a-Lago and did what he did, that most likely put them on the course that they on right now. I didn't even
absolutely.
realize it until you brought that food name up.
Well, I said this in a TikTok earlier. The reason we are in the position we are now in is because of cowards leading the charge.
Absolutely. Hmm.
But but before you agree with that, you got to hear the whole thing. Cowards in the Republican Party who were afraid to go against the base and lose them as voters. They were cowards about that. Democrats were cowards because when they had the opportunity to hammer him
Hmm.
and they should have pushed back hard, they chose not to. And the
Yeah.
media were cowards because when he came down those steps, he wasn't a viable candidate. He was a joke, he was a novelty.
Hmm.
But he kept doing crazy shit, and the left side media, well, the right side media did it too, but the left side media kept putting him on the air. Whenever he said something crazy, they never pushed back. They just let him say it because they knew it meant ratings and money. So the media was cowards, the Republican Party was full of cowards, and a good portion of the Democrats were cowards. We are supposed to be the home of the brave, but for the last 8
Yeah.
years, we've been a whole shitload of cowardice. So now we need to switch that
Yeah.
and be brave and start slapping the taste out of people's mouths. We really have to do that if we want to get this back.
And let's not forget about Merrick Garland.
Oh, yeah.
The
Yeah.
moment he was sworn in, he should have had his foot on Donald Trump's neck. You
Yeah.
don't sit there and what my grandmother would say, pussyfoot around with somebody like Trump. You don't do that. You
Yeah.
sworn in and you like, hey, I'm all business. And if the Republican Party got a problem with it, guess what? You was at the insurrection too. You was at the insurrection too. So unless you don't want me putting my foot on your neck, I suggest you sit in that corner and shut up and let me handle my business. He could have done that. And I'm so frustrated that he didn't because truth be told, Donald Trump could have been in prison by now. I don't even know why we're in this situation.
Yeah.
But I can't forget that, our side, like you said, there were cowards there. And Merrick Garland, he was like the ring leader.
He's a coward.
I don't understand why he did that. I don't understand why he just did not act.
Well,
I don't get it.
when you say put your foot on their necks, it reminded me of some things my father used to say to me and my brother if we'd get
Hmm.
in trouble or smart off. And he would say it a little differently. He would say one of two things. I'll put my size 11 up your ass, or I'll put you through a wall. Now, what you have to understand is when you're 7, you don't really fucking understand. You don't you don't know if it's literal. You don't know if it's just uh, yeah. We need to get tougher in this country. We need to push back on people. It's been too
Yeah,
easy. We've let people go. This is why the Republican Party, since Ronald Reagan to now, is because we've laid back and said, well, they're just crazy. Vote for us and we'll fix it. It's
yeah,
it's beyond that now. We've
it is.
already we're like the rock stars in the 70s. The the hotel room is trashed. We either got to clean this motherfucker up or pay somebody to clean it up, but it needs to
Yeah,
get cleaned up.
right. And I think that people could feel motivated if they would just remind themselves that while they plan these political games and all this other stuff that they're doing, there is people in the crossfire that's getting hurt, innocent people, even
Right.
children. I mean, we can't even pass gun reform. So while they playing around with this game and Republicans and trying to get them to see reason, in the meantime, children are scared to go to school, and they should be.
Right.
So I think people should remind themselves that there is innocent people that's caught up in the middle of all that. And then as America, we don't want to leave people behind, but it just seems like a lot of people are okay with certain people being left behind, even if it's children. And that's the sad part about it. These are like babies that we're talking about, and nothing's being done about it.
No. No, and I think the best motivation for people in this country, I think they're motivated now because they're scared of
Hmm.
what might be if Donald Trump were to become president again. But I think one thing
Yeah,
that motivates people is some successes.
yeah,
When I say successes like convicting Donald Trump when everybody thinks he's not accountable, winning the election when everybody keeps telling us that it's a close race. It's not a close race. I don't care what anybody says. No way,
hmm,
no way it can be a close race, but we've got to get those wins. And then when we get that momentum going, we actually have to do something about it. We don't get lazy and say, well, we won. Donald Trump's gone. The Republicans are eradicated. Now we can just relax. No, we got to get down to business and dig ourselves out of this hole and start fixing shit. Because if you don't, and you don't have some successes, then the Republicans will come along in 4, 8 years and say they fucked up for 8 years. Now let's let us back in, and then we're back where we started from.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And don't be scared to keep pushing, because I do think that sometimes with Democrats, they try to make it everybody feel inclusive, I guess is how you would put it. But I don't see anything wrong with saying, no, this is how we're gonna do it because I'm in charge. You come up with some good policies and people vote you in, then you can do it how you want to. But right
Yeah.
now, this is how I'm gonna do it. And I don't see anything wrong with that. And I'm hoping that we don't slide back into the way it used to be, or when people say, I just want to wanted to go back to being normal. But things are pretty crappy for a lot of people when it was normal.
Right.
So, not a lot of people want to go back to that. So I don't think that's a good talking point either, going back to normal, because for a lot of people that didn't work for them. It sucked for them. So it's just saying, you know what, we want to bring some normality back, and then we want to just move forward and take as much people with us as possible. I think that's a better selling point than I want to go back to being normal, because that didn't work for everybody.
I had a boss one time uh, when I wanted to do something and I believed in it. I pushed hard to do it. Um, and I had the good fortune to be friends with my boss's boss. Good friends.
Ah,
He respected me. I respected him. Um, but she sat me down one time and she says, "You just don't know when to stop pushing." I said, "I said I know exactly when to stop pushing." She goes, "When is that?" I go, "When I fucking win, because I'm right." And that's the attitude we got to be here. We're on
mm-hmm.
the right side of history. We're on the right
Right.
side of law. It's like when I've talked to Trumplefucks and they say, "You just can't see my point of view. Why can't we come to a compromise?" Well, you're absolutely wrong. I'm absolutely right. Where do we compromise there? Am I going to allow myself to be a little wrong just to make you fucking happy? No. We're right. They're wrong. We shove them off the cliff. And unless we have that attitude, we're going to be stuck with little bits and pieces of fucking cancerous Trumplefucks that will metastasize later when we allow them to do it. We've got to be tough and we've got to push them out of the way and we've got to push and push until we fucking win.
Right. And it's like you said, because I think that with Republicans, it is emotional and it is about their feelings.
Right.
So I'm going to stop pushing for better policy, for improvement for society as a whole, because it's going to hurt your feelings.
Right.
That is just, that makes absolutely no sense at all. But it's like, not only am I pushing for myself, but you have family, you have children, we're pushing for them too. I can't remember the senator's name, but after one of the last shootings, somebody asked him about his children and assault rifles, and my stomach just dropped when he said that. He said, "Well, my children are homeschooled," and I took that as, "No, y'all children is getting shot up. My children at home and at school,
I'm good. I'm good.
or
Yeah.
their children is in like private schools or whatever." They look at it as our children are being slaughtered. They know that their children is in private school and they have security there. They know ain't no armed guards getting in on the no private school. They know that their children is homeschooled, so they safe. So they are okay with no gun reform because it's not their children who are being murdered. They're
Right.
okay with that. So it's like when you argue with somebody about your how you feel, I don't care about your feelings when it comes to keeping my kids and your kids safe. The hell with your feelings.
Well, people
And
say that,
it's all about their feelings and their emotions. And that's just, I don't understand how you think that we're supposed to build society as you, one person, how you in particular feel. To heck with everybody else, it's about how you feel. And
you know,
the world don't work like that. And sometimes I wonder what planet these people are on.
you know, most people are averse to confrontation. They will do
Hmm.
anything to avoid a confrontation. Some people see it as my flaw. I see it as a superpower. I don't mind confrontation. I'm cool with confrontation. And let's be perfectly honest, if you're wrong and doing bad things, I'm not worried about you feeling bad or make you feel bad. I'm trying to make you feel bad. I want you to understand that what you're doing wrong is. And that's an attitude that a lot of people kind of go, "Oh, that's too much." Well, isn't overturning Roe v. Wade, kids getting shot in schools. When is that too much? And if it's too much, we've got to push back with equal power, but for good as opposed to for the bad that the Republicans are bringing to the fucking table that we're having to deal with now. When do we stand up? When do we push back? And when do we not worry about their fucking feelings?
Right. Because it's never an argument of substance, is it? I
No.
remember like the last video, it was like a troll in the comment section, right? And I was like laughing. I thought it was funny. A, wasn't nobody responding to this person. So they were leaving like three, four, five comments or whatever, just because there was nobody engaging with them. So that must have been driving them crazy. But I
Yeah.
was looking at the comments just to see what she said. First of all, I hope that's not her real picture because she looked like, George Santo, his alter ego, the one that dresses in drag.
Yeah.
That's exactly what her picture looked like. And I was like, she gotta be playing. She can't look like this and talking trash. But anyway, so I was just wanting to see what she had to say. And I think she said something like, my hair was ugly. My mom used to be a thief, 24 years ago. I'm not ashamed of my mother's past, and she's not either. Um, but I was just looking at the comment and I was like, you listened to almost a 2-hour video where we had a conversation. And the only thing you had to say was about my appearance and what my mother did almost 24 years ago. That's it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they cannot argue on the merits of what we're saying. How do you argue against somebody saying, you know what, we need to reform healthcare in this country because people die every year because they can't afford medication, they can't afford to go to the doctor? How do you argue against that? How do you argue against gun reform because we don't want children being shot at school? How do you argue against that? So because they can't argue with that, then they'll say, oh, well, you're ugly or you're this or you're that. It's so sad. It would make me feel like, okay, how can I relate to these people without hating them? Because at one point I was feeling like some mad hatred for them. And then
You
I
know,
was thinking to myself, one thing I can relate to them on is because I know what it feels like for your self-esteem to be in the toilet.
right.
So for me, I can sit here and say America deserves better than a rapist, than a liar, than a cheat, than somebody who scams from the American government, somebody who scams from his own people that support him. We deserve better than that. I deserve better than that. You deserve better than that. But with the Republican Party, they just settle for that because I guess they think that's what they deserve. And so if I look at it like that, and I'm like, you know what, you deserve better than that. And the crazy part about it is you don't see that yet. And
Right.
until you see it, you just want to attack the person that, for whatever, because you can't attack the people you're really mad at. And
Right.
so for me, it's kind of sad, but then I don't allow me feeling sad for them to get in the way of what I need to do. Like,
Well,
okay, you can be in your feelings, but
I'm
sorry.
glad you don't take those things to heart because I know in comments we don't get them as much in.
I don't take nothing to heart because you have to sit there and watch a whole video
Yeah.
to try to look for something negative to say, and you can't find anything negative to say. So to me, that says more good things about the show than it says bad things about the show. But I have to look at it as like, okay, well, you watched the whole podcast.
Well,
Thank you.
the
And
thing
thank you
is,
for the comment too, because that just puts you in the algorithm. So
yeah, exactly.
we both
Well,
appreciate that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And and I get some horrific things said about me because I'm out there all the time, whether it be TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I get them coming to me, and my wife always says, "Doesn't that make you feel bad?" No, it doesn't make me feel bad. I
Mm-mm.
fe- I feel bad for these people because mommy and daddy didn't love them, and now they have to do something like this. But
You want a hug?
they reveal themselves so I can block them. And then they'll say, well, somebody will come back and say, you blocked me. You just don't want to debate. I said, it's not that I don't want to debate. I don't want to debate with somebody who's inconsequential, who matters nothing to me or anybody else that I'm talking to. You're unimportant. And
Mm-hmm.
and that pisses them off more. Then I got to block them again from another fucking thing. The best thing I've found is not to engage with these people because they're doing one of two things. They're trying to stir you up and get you angry and get you in a conversation because that's the only way they can compete with you. Secondly, they come to this platform or YouTube or whatever because they can't garner enough attention on their own, so they have to hop on the coattails of somebody who has an audience so that they can speak their mind. The ironic thing is they're coming speaking their minds on a platform where 99% of the people think the opposite, and they're not smart enough
Mm-hmm.
or articulate enough to convince or sway anybody. It's just a pointless effort. It's futile for them, and they don't even get that. So I do
No.
them the favor and block them, and they disappear, and everybody loves it.
Well, for me, I always look at it as, hey, you're gonna have to come at me harder than that. Like you just gonna have to. I think when you go through certain things and you get to a certain point, your skin is like very thin. Stuff like
Yeah,
that don't offend me at all.
yeah,
It just don't. But I also think like their idea of hurting people is like so far removed from my idea of hurting somebody. Like the stuff that they do, like they watch your video, which gives you the view, and they leave multiple comments, which
right.
puts you in the algorithm. How is that hurting you? Okay, that's number one. But then they do stuff like, I don't like Bud Light. I'm going to boycott them. So I'm going to go buy 20 cases of their beer and blow it up. But you bought the beer though, right? You know what? They do stuff like that. I'm gonna go buy all the M&Ms off of the shelf so I can step on them.
Right,
They don't care what you do with the M&Ms after you buy them. Once you
right,
buy them, they got their money, they got their profit. It's just like you're so emotional that when you try to hurt somebody, you're helping them,
right.
and it's just so ass
Stupid.
backwards.
It's absolutely stupid. It's absolutely ignorant, and that's the only way I can look at these folks. I worry about it though when I see them make comments about listeners that are on the show because you don't deal with it on a regular basis. You don't deserve the negative responses, but
Oh, I don't care.
you got to take it for what it's worth. It's not worth anything. It's a joke. I mean, these people are going to vote for Donald Trump and send him all their money. Who
All
who
right.
who listens to anything they fucking say? Like I
That's
said,
probably why you sit in people comment sections and doing this weird stuff because you'd have gave all Donald Trump all your money now Saturday night and you can't afford to go out nowhere.
well, we would go out dancing and drinking, but we got no money, so let's just troll the rational boomer.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
you do what you got to do. You do what you got to do. Well,
Okay,
we're
I
going to,
gotta tell you,
yeah,
okay, I did something. And there was a
illegal,
person,
illegal.
yeah, it was legal. It was illegal. So I have a really close friend and her boyfriend's family, a couple of them are like Trump supporters, right?
Yeah.
And I swear I got this idea from the Midas Touch. It was not me. And so I was like, hey, can you get their email addresses? And she was just like, well, I know what you can do with people information. Well, you know a little bit offline, but
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, just give me their email address. That's it. So I got the email addresses. I signed them up for Truth Social and the emailing list that they have. And so you know how Trump sends out all those emails like all day, every day, spamming them with the emails, send me money, I can't sleep, send me money. And so their their inboxes started getting bombarded with Trump begging for money. And so she hit me up and she was like, what did you do? They want to know why Trump is sending out so many emails. And I was just like, he always sends out so many emails. If he's not a grifter and a con artist, they should have no problem with these 20 emails that he's sending them every day asking for money. And she was like, you are so petty and such a good troll. you need to be on social media. But that's why I'm not on social media, because my brain don't act like sometimes.
Well, what you did is masterful because you trolled these people, you inconvenienced these people, and all you did is do them a favor to put them on a email list to their Lord and Savior. That's beautiful. I would
They
never have
don't
thought
like
that.
it. They don't like it at all. And she was like, I'm not going to say anything. I was like, no, don't just let them think, Trump got a hold of their email and whatever. But apparently he sends out a lot of emails,
Yeah.
1, 2 o'clock in the morning, asking for money. She like screenshotted one of them it was so weird. Like, it was so weird. I guess he couldn't sleep and he was like, help, I can't sleep or something. And he sent the email and I guess you like click on the link and it's like to a donation page. Um,
Wow. That's
That's what I did. That's why they not watching your podcast, so I can say it freely. But yeah, that's what I did.
that's absolutely beautiful. I'm in awe of that. I would never have thought to do that, but I might now. I might steal that idea. That's a brilliant fucking idea. Uh, but we're also we're going to wrap things up. We're going to get you out of the broom closet.
Yeah.
So old soul, when we're done here, will be coming out of the closet, literally, not figuratively. She'll be able to breathe again, and she'll start tending to a young woman she doesn't know in a state she doesn't live in a
Yeah. It's
hospital.
only the good thing is not their time zone is not that far from mine. It's only like an hour off from the time zone that I'm
Right.
used to, so it's not throwing me off too much. But if she's stable and they're comfortable, I'm gonna find a hotel and take a shower. Like I've been in the hospital for 2 days. I can't keep doing this. I
No, no,
can't keep doing it.
that's you can't do that. And you can tell the hospital staff that I promise henceforth, and I'm going to try to fuck up every Republican I can get my hands on verbally or whatever. And we are going to try to straighten some shit out regarding the Roe v. Wade thing. And then sometime after November, we'll probably get some resolve to this thing. So ensure them we're on it and we're going to fuck with some people.
We don't have that much longer to go. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm gonna keep
Absolutely.
going.
Absolutely. Well, Old Soul, thank you very much for
Yeah,
coming on the show again, as you normally do. Uh, go get a hotel room, go get a shower, do what you got to do, and then get home and live your fucking life. Jesus Christ. Oh,
I'll leave
man.
when she leave. I ain't gonna. I'm
Mm.
not gonna leave an 18-year-old here by herself. I'm just not gonna
Wow.
do that.
If
I
I
work
ever,
remotely, so I can work from wherever. So it's not like that big of an inconvenience. Although when my honey was taking me to the airport, he was like, you are the easiest person in the world to love. But it's so hard being in a relationship with you. Because when I have girls that come over and they have trauma, you can't come over, I gotta come to you. Like this is a man-free zone until, certain people leave. If they got a dad or a husband or somebody, okay, yeah, you can come over, y'all can hang out. But if it's a girl dealing with some trauma, you're on your own. When she go to bed or something, I can come over, but you can't come over here. So I know that's difficult, and I do appreciate him putting up
yeah,
with me and all my
I,
stuff that
I,
I've got going on.
I,
I
I,
appreciate him.
I get what he's saying, and I will agree with him that you're obviously easy to love. You have a lot of things going for you, but generally speaking, you're like my granddaughter. You're a lot. You're a lot to deal with.
He cool with it, so I gotta be doing something right.
Well, you better stick with him because most men would not be cool with it. So
That's true.
you got the right one. All right. Old Soul, thank you very much for coming on. Those of you folks that have listened, thank you for taking the time to do that. Hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.